Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Real Invest webcast. It's great to have everybody here today. How you all doing? Hope everyone doing well and enjoying the summer. Yes, another session of Real Invest webcast, and my name is Joseph Ola. I'm a realtor here in Southern Ontario, and I'm glad to bring this episode to you, episode 006 of Real Invest webcast. It's been over a month now, and the comment and response from you all has been really encouraging. I've been energized to keep doing what I'm doing here, which is to bring to you the chronicles of real estate investors and to ensure that you learn to do the same and to let you also know that it is possible. The mental block for most people is just that they think real estate investment is just something out there in the blues, not something they could attend. But I'm telling you that it is possible, it is feasible for you. So stick with me as we journey together to learn and to grow in our real estate investing. My name once again is Joseph Ola. I'm a real estate agent as well as an investor here in Southern Ontario. And today I will be the host as well as the guest on the show. So I'm glad that you've joined me, and I will just would like to talk about the most important strategy here in the game, and that is the buy and hold strategy. Specifically, we'll be inching towards the BRRRR strategy, which is much famous among savvy investors. We'll be digging deep into that. We'll be diving really deep to see how that's done. What are the things you need to know to even jump in that? And yes, I'm looking forward to a very engaging time. So if you have any question, any comments, please drop them. Even if you're replaying this later on and you have any questions regarding, you know, anything we've discussed today or we're going to discuss today, please make sure to leave it in the comments, and I'll do my best to make sure that I catch every single question. All right. So let's continue the discussion here again. Um, on today's episode, I will be sharing my experience regarding buy and hold strategy. Uh, Maybe we'll start out discussing house hacking, and then we'll go on to discuss the burst strategy. And I'm hoping that that will give some of you some insights. I know that I've gotten questions regarding specific strategies and how to get that started. So um I think it's good to just start out with house hacking in general, and what that means and how's that beneficial. House hacking is predominantly the first strategy that a lot of first time investors engaged to dip their toes into the real estate investing game. So what is house hacking? House hacking is simply an investor purchasing a property mainly for investment but decides to live in a portion of that property while renting the rest. In some cases it subsidizes the mortgage payment, and in many cases it actually pays totally so that the person house hacking gets to live for free. So let's talk about a case study here. A gentleman bought a home for 300,000. The mortgage came up to about $1,300 per month, and with his utilities, let's just say that all his monthly expense came up to about $1,500. And this gentleman decided to rent the entire main floor of the home to someone that pays him about $1,800 a month while he lives in the basement. So remember the total expense that we calculated is about 1,500, 1,550, maybe at most $1,600 a month, and the tenant upstairs paying 1,800. This is still the person's primary home, so they would have been able to use 5% down payment, and for 300, 5% comes to just $15,000. So with $15,000 and closing costs, let's say all in, the investor spent $20,000 out of pocket to purchase this $300,000 home, in which they live in the basement paying nothing. The tenant upstairs completely covers the cost of the rent and the cost of the utilities. Isn't that sweet? So the main benefit of house hacking obviously is that the investor gets to leave for free. Now this is the most basic form of house hacking, really, is when you're living in that single family dwelling, or I guess you could say a duplex, or just a single family with you as a landlord living in the basement and the tenant living upstairs, and the proceeds from the rent you collect from the tenant covers your mortgage costs and plus utilities. That's yes, that's basic house hacking. Now, you could take it up a notch. I've seen investors who get into house hacking on a much larger scale. For example, some investors will choose to get a multiplex, like a multi-family housing, maybe up to like six units in the building, and they live in one unit because they decide that they want to also manage the properties by themselves. So they live in one unit and rent out the other five. And in many cases, the proceeds from the other five will pay the mortgage as well as generate substantial income. Basically, in that setup, you're not just, I mean, it takes a bit of work to manage a multi-family property like that. So you're not just the owner, you're also managing the property while you live in there. So let's just say that you have a day job on your hands. Well, not even a day job; it's you're on call for that kind of uh, situation. But it's a much larger scale in that you have many other families living on the same premises. Um, your cash flow is probably going to be much stronger, but there's also quite a bit of uh, hands on deck when it comes to this kind of strategy, because you're managing quite a few tenants. But so let's think about it. You're house hacking on a single family dwelling, or maybe you're living in a multi-unit. Which is better? Well, one is not really better than the other. It all boils down to your personal goals and your personal preferences. If your goal is to just, live free, and just have a property that appreciates in value, you're probably fine with a single family dwelling. And but if your goal is to just grow your portfolio as much as possible, and you want a house hack, then you can go the route of multifamily. But then obviously there are constraints, right? So if you're a first time buyer, you probably have a better chance going for a single family than going for a multi family uh, property, because obviously the prices differ. A four to six family units might take up to depending on where you're buying, you could be looking at anywhere from say 700, 800, $1 million, up to like 5 to 10 million. Just depends on where you're buying, how big the property is, the location, and all of that. So talking about the barrier of entry, uh, a new investor who wants to just kind of get in, live for free while you build your portfolio, you want to go for maybe a duplex or just a single family dwelling with you living in the basement. um in the case of living in the basement of a property, you could, if you want more space, you could leave upstairs and rent the basement. Obviously the basement will not fetch you as much as the main area of that single family dwelling. But the other thing you have to also consider is that if you want to rent out your basement, then your basement needs to it depends on how you want to rent out. If you're renting it out as a rental unit, depending on your jurisdiction, of course, depending on where you live, the municipal laws are most likely going to require some stringent requirements for that basement area. For example, if you call a place an apartment, then there needs to be fire barrier between that space and the other space. So if you call your basement space an apartment, then usually the municipal laws will require a fire barrier between that basement and the upper floor. So that makes, it brings up the cost to make the basement rentable quite high. Another requirement, for example, could be the window size. It's often required that the window serves as a fire exit, just in case the door is obstructed by fire. Then the only exit that the person living in the basement has is the window. And the general default windows in most buildings, especially older ones, are quite tiny, right? So that means that the cost of putting a new window in a concrete basement, for example, is something to consider. Meanwhile, if you decide as the landlord to live in the basement, well, it's your choice. Where the difficulty lies is putting someone in the basement. The basement needs to meet certain municipal laws. But if you are living in the space and you own your property, then uh yeah, you do what you want with your property, right? So that's in a nutshell what house hacking is all about, and how to really get it done. You buy you if it's your first property, yeah, you buy it like a primary residence, because that's really what it is. It's your primary residence. And then you make sure that the decide which space you want to rent out. If your mindset is that of a business person, then you will be thinking, you know what, I'd rather live in a smaller space, rent out the bigger space, make a good chunk of money, have all my bills paid by my tenants. I mean, who doesn't want that? But if you prefer to live large, then I guess you take the larger space, get a little bit of subsidy from the rent that you get from your basement. But again, remember, there will be some work that you need to get done to make sure that that basement is rentable. If you do have any questions, please make sure to drop them in the comments. I'm monitoring the comment section. And if you're joining the show right now, this is Real Invest Webcast, episode 006. And today I'm just going over some investment strategy for a buy and hold, meaning that you're looking to buy real estate and hold it for the long term. This group of strategies are generally the most stable, the most promising in the long run. But you know, like I've always said, real estate is a time game. The longer you're in it, the more rewards it tends to yield to you. Um, if you're watching on YouTube, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and like. And if you have any comments or any questions, please make sure to throw them in the comment section. All right. Just looking through the comments here to see if anybody has a question. All right. So we've discussed house hacking and what that means. We've discussed that strategy a little bit in depth. So I hope that brings value to someone, especially if you're kind of if you don't own your own property, yes, and you're kind of trying to figure out how do you get into a property yourself, how do you invest, how can you start, what's the best property strategy to start with. And if you have some limitations regarding what you qualify for, your based on your income, on your down payment that you have on hand, house hacking with a single family dwelling is often a very good strategy to kick off with. So if you have any question, feel free to shoot on that. Otherwise, we will move on to other buy and hold strategy. Okay, so let's jump to the other strategy that I really want to I want us to take a look at. Well, in general, what does it mean to buy and hold? It means that you purchase a property and you just hold on to it for as long as possible. 10 years, 20 years, 5 years, whatever it is. Buy and hold means you buy the property and you hold onto it. That's pretty straightforward. Um why is that important? Again, it's because the main uh the main income that you derive from your real estate is predominantly from the appreciation of that property, and that happens over time. So if you don't give it time, then you don't receive the reward that the time brings in real estate. Just of late, I pulled the price chart, average price chart for Canada over the past like few decades, about 4 decades, and the price constantly goes up and up and up, at least for 40 years in a row. Yes, there are times of recession and depression, but it doesn't last years. It lasts months at the most, and before you know it, the market is back where it was, and it keeps on going forward. So buy and hold means you buy and you ride the wave of the market all the way to the top. So um house hacking is basically a strategy that helps you with entry into the market while also subsidizing your living. Okay, so talking about other buy and hold strategy, one that I will be discussing for the next few minutes is called the BRRRR strategy, and that's BRRRR is spelled BRRRR. BRRRR is BRRR. So no vowels, just all consonants. BRRR. And what that means is that you buy, you rehab, you rent, you refinance, and then you repeat. You buy, you rent, you rehab, you rent, and refinance, and you repeat. How many R is that? That's actually four. That's four. Uh, s- the primitive version of BRRRR is you buy, you rehab, you rent, you repeat. But I guess you take it a notch when you refinance to go do the next one. So we'll just get into those points one by one to define what the BRRRR strategy is. Obviously, you buy the property. That's pretty straightforward. Rehab means you renovate. So birth strategy, I guess you could say it's a hybrid of a flip versus just a regular buy and hold, where you buy a bespoke property, a property that's ready to go in a moving condition, doesn't really need a lot of work. You rent it out to a tenant and you just begin receiving your rent. Whereas if you want to just flip, then you buy a property that needs quite a bit of work. You bring your value in by doing the renovation or the rehabilitation of the property, and then you sell. That's your flip. And hybrid of both is your burst strategy, meaning that you find value opportunity uh, in the market. You find properties that are not in the best shape, properties that you can come and rehabilitate to bring it into a marketable condition. But instead of selling it like the flip, you will be renting it. So what does that look like? If you were going to flip the property, then you immediately list the property back on the market. You're expecting a buyer to come in and pay a premium for it, which will cover all your expenses to buy and to renovate, with some profits to take away, right? But if you were going to do a bird, then what you're looking to do is that you buy, you renovate the property. Instead of selling now, you look for a tenant and rent it out. Now, once you rent the property out, based on the current rent you're receiving from the property, the bank is able to uh, appraise the property at a much significantly higher price. And based on that new value of the property, you're able to refinance and hopefully capture your entire investment in the property. So let's take a case study. To buy a bar, you're looking for, before we go into a case study, we'll go a bit in depth to each and every step. So the first step, like I said, is to buy the property. What are you looking for when you want to buy a property here? You're looking for, again, a distressed property. When I say distressed property, in a lot of cases, they're homes that requires a lot of work, right? But it's distressed properties don't necessarily always have to be rundown properties. It could also be a distressed seller. Okay, so that's another thing to think about. Most likely, you would have some work to do in a house that you buy in this strategy. But sometimes you get good deals by just finding distressed sellers. All right, sometimes there are people in risk of foreclosure, and rather than foreclosing their property, they rather sell it themselves and basically cancel out their obligations. Those are things to look for, right? Those are the type of deals that would really give you a very good margin for your board strategy or for your flip strategy, by the way. So the buying, or the way you get into a burr property, is very close to you just buying a house that you intend to flip. So you're looking for houses that needs quite a lot of TLC, that you can then take and do some work on to bring it up to the standards of the market. So you're looking for distressed sellers or distressed properties, homes in conditions that no one really wants, and because of that, the price is marked pretty low, right? So that's the part of buying the property. Now, once you buy the let's well so while we're on the purchase, one of the things that you have to think about is, how do you finance the purchase? uh, there are many ways to do this, but obviously, cash is king, right? Because right now money is getting more expensive. I mean, lending is getting, uh, borrowing is getting more expensive. We're paying high interest rates, both on the private end and even with the big fives. The interest rate is just getting high up there. That when you want to do this kind of project, you need to think about, how do you maximize your profit? The lower the cost of your borrowing, the more margin you have in your deal. So you need to think about, how do you want to fund your deal. uh, in this game, going in solo is not always the best, even though a lot of times, it's easy to make decisions when you're alone on the deal, but many a times it's very much necessary for you to share risk. So what that means is that it's better for you to bring others on the deal. For example, if the house is gonna cost about 250,000 to buy, um if you know someone that actually has 250,000 and they want to come on the deal with you, I think that's much cheaper, because instead of you going to the bank that's going to charge fees and interest, you could just share profits with this person, with this investor, right? As long as they trust you, they know that you know what you're doing, and you're not going to lose their money. So the more the merrier when it comes to real estate investing. Sometimes a deal that you enter into with someone else is better than no deal at all. So when opportunity comes your way, don't there's no point being selfish. Reach out to someone that might have other things that they can bring to the table and get the deal done, right? So buying, the cost of the purchase is a big one. Now, if you already own your property, you can always look to, the homeowner's line of credit. You could look to refinance the property to get some cash out to make the purchase. This is, I mean, talking about finding, money can be another topic that we would have to discuss for an entire episode. So maybe that's something that we should do soon. But the other thing to think about is that when you're going into this type of deal, you want to make sure that your margin is significant. Just because when we talk about renos, you just never can tell exactly how it's all going to go down. Yes, you want to get a reputable contractor to give you a quote, but then you want to add some contingencies. You want to make sure that you have a good buffer, and you want to have a good margin, because if things go wrong, if at least it goes to eat into the margin or wipes out the entire margin, the capital is still preserved, because integrity is key in this game. If someone trusts you with their funds, the best thing you can do is to make sure that the capital is preserved and you honor the agreement. So yeah, it's important that like they say, you make your money when you buy. So at that point of purchase, make sure that your margin is significantly high enough that if anything to go down south, you're safe, or your investors' money is safe. So those are a few things to think about when you want to buy. Um, Besides that, you want to so you want to consider the area you're buying in and how much houses are going for. So let's say uh, you're buying a three-bedroom, semi-detached, three beds, two baths, about 1,200 square foot, and you're buying that in the Niagara area here, and the going rate in the area is about 600,000 for that type of property. So you want to go inside and see, okay, maybe with a licensed contractor, what are the major work that is required in this space. Obviously, in most houses that requires rehab, many cosmetic changes will be required, like flooring, walls, ceilings, new doors, new hardware, and things like that. But the structural parts, the structural stuff, are things to be paid attention to. For example, talking about uh kitchen. Do you need a new kitchen? Do you need a new bath? Do you need structural repairs? For example, like foundation issues? Are there foundation issues? Are there issues with the HVAC system? Are there issues with windows and roof? Those are quick points that could tell you a whole lot. When you walk into a house, you go into the basement. Is it concrete or is it brick? Is it concrete block basements? Because one of the many issues with block basements is that you see cracks on them. Doesn't mean that it's the end of the world, but it just means that you need a licensed engineer to take a good look. And because when you're talking basement foundation issues, then you could be talking of expenses to the tune of tens of thousands. So it's really important that some trained eyes looking at that kind of stuff before you draw conclusions. Again, if anybody's joining us in middle of this conversation, you're on Real Invest webcast episode 006, and today we're talking about buy and hold strategies. We've talked about house hacking. If you missed that, then just replay the show after the show ends. But right now we're talking about BRRRR strategy, which is buy, uh, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. And we've talked about we're talking about what to pay attention to when you're buying right now, which is the first step of the burst strategy. We said the buying is very, very close to the way you would buy a flip. You're looking for houses that are distressed, or you're looking for sellers that are distressed, because in both sides you can easily find a good deal. If you have any questions so far, please feel free to throw it in the comment section. I'm monitoring that as we go. So I think we've talked about quite a few things regarding what to pay attention to when you buy. We talked about significant margin to make sure that you preserve the capital of yourself or your investor. We've talked about the big things that you need to pay attention to, which are mostly structural issues, foundational issues, unevenness on the floor, windows, roof, those type thing. And then you look at the HVAC system. What's the state of that? If you know a bit of if you know what to look for, then you should be looking, especially in the older housing, should be looking at the presence of asbestos and things like that that are no longer legal to have in a home that is being worked on. So those things could be quite a few red flags, when you're trying to buy a property, either for a flip or for the BRRRR strategy. All right, I think we've touched on quite a few things. So if you have any question on that and you want us to talk more on buying, then we can do that. But right now, I say let's move into the next item. What's the first R after buying? It's the rehab or renovate. Okay, so you buy. The next thing to do then is to renovate. Um, the renovation, I guess the first part that we can talk about too is the financing. How do you finance that? This ties a little bit into the buying as well, because um, one of my guests in the past few episodes was a mortgage broker, and one of the things I've talked about is how to finance this deals like this. And in some cases, you could get lenders that would borrow you the money to both buy it and renovate it. But they would have some strict requirements around how to do that. For example, they want to see a contractor's estimate, right? You want to make sure that the amount of the budget is well structured. It's not just a guess. So the bank wants to see a contractor's estimate before they go ahead and issue you a mortgage loan. uh, I have a question here from Omar Bukola. It says, what's the budget for buying a three-bedroom with a basement that can go for rent? Man, that's an open-ended question. There are many types of three bedrooms with a basement, and there are many locations. So it really depends. Like, I'm in the Niagara area here, and what you'll find that for in the Niagara is different from what you'll find in Hamilton, and much different as well to what you find in Toronto. So the location is really, really a big factor. And then the type: a three-bedroom semi-detached, a three-bedroom detached. Okay, in Niagara, three-bedroom with a finished basement, it could range from anywhere from, let's say, 500, 550 up onto over a million again. So for example, the square footage of the house is another factor, and the age of the house these days, because of the premium that the the demand for newer houses in the past couple of years kind of drove a huge wedge between the price of a new house versus a house that's 5 years old. And 5 years old compared to like a 30-year-old house, the price is significantly different as well. But again, a three beds, let's say two bath, finished basement with a with that's kind of ready to go, maybe for rental, could yeah, you could find that even up to like 700, 800 in places like even Wayland. So yeah, one might be coming up for sale soon, so maybe stay tuned. That you can connect with me sometimes later. I might have one for you that's going up for sale. It's a three-bedroom, and it does have a finished basement with a kitchenette and a bathroom, and two bedrooms in the basement. So yeah, hit me up later and let's chat about that, Mr. or Mrs. Omar Bukola. Thanks a lot for that question. So talking again about the birth strategy, we're talking about um, the rehabilitation part of the birth strategy, which is the first R. So you buy, and then the next thing is to rehab. Where does the money for rehab comes? That's the first question I wanted to answer. And I said that could come usually. Obviously, you factor this in before you get into the deal itself. If you're looking to loan that money, there are lenders that are willing to loan the money to you alongside the money for the mortgage. But like I said, they require a contractor's estimate. So that means that before, buying the property outright, or before placing the offer, maybe do schedule a showing with a contractor, do a walkthrough, like the contractor give you their estimate, and that can go in with your mortgage application. All right. Again, if you have partners on the deal that are able to finance your deal cash, why not? uh, you can bring other partners and share in your profit. Eventually, if you go to a private lender or a BE lender, or even a bank, what you're doing is in essence the same. Your fees and your interest rate becomes your lending cost, right? So if you can, if you can draw people in and they are willing to join you on the deal, do that. The more the merrier. You're helping other people attain their financial goal while you attain yours as well. And that's also how you build your reputation as a real estate investor. The more people see that you know what you're doing, the more they're looking to invest with you next time. Um, yes, Omobukola, my I'm just gonna put my number out here, or my email address. You could just Google Joseph Ola, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. You can reach out to me on any of those platforms. I will be glad to answer any of your questions. So, talking about the rehabbing the property that you've purchased, if you have all your finance lined up from the start, then this is a process that you want to get started right away, because again, time is money. If you don't have a, let's say you have your loan from a private lender, it's quite possible that your interest rate is high. So every month you're paying mortgage, you want to make sure that you have your ducks lined up before the house closes. What do I mean by that? You need to have the contractor ready to work. It could be quite tricky working with contractors if it's your first rodeo. You want to make sure that you're using a contractor that comes well recommended. It could be really really dicey if you choose a wrong person. Number one, you could find out that your project drags on much longer than you anticipate, right? And that's what wipes out the profit, your monthly payment. Sometimes before you know it, all the profit is gone. The other thing too that happens if you get a contractor that is not reputable is that things gets inflated, or issues that are not there seems to just come out of the blues, and that also could easily take out the entire profit and begin to even encroach into your investment. So this rehabilitation part, honestly, is important that you go through people that are well reputed, people who you get references basically of other people that this contractor served and are well impressed with what they've done. And that's also why, again, the journey of investing is not something that you do alone. There's a community out there of people who are doing what you're trying to do. Stay in the midst, talk to them, bring your information, bring some value to the table, and typically other investors will be willing to bring you value as well. So I'm also here to answer questions, to refer you to people that I know that have done good job before, that are able to assist you with your investment goals. Wow, it's 12:42 EST. Time is flying really fast. I want to make sure that we at least get an overview of the entire board strategy before the show ends. So I'm gonna try and move a bit faster here. So for your renovation, really the key is to make sure that you are connected to the right contractor. If the right contractor is in place, then hopefully they can get through your renos much faster, and at least on time and on budget. Obviously you want to have some contingency. I like to give myself a good buffer. That's why that margin is significantly important. If a house is supposed to again, the house you bought for 300, and your the same house in a perfect state is supposed to go for 500, then you should not be going for the house if your budget is going to be over 100,000. If your margin is not 100,000, then that magic can be easily wiped out by, let's say, a basement issue, an old flooding thing that was never dealt with, a roof replacement. Things will just come up, and before you know it, there's an extension to the schedule, which means that you now have to make monthly payments for much longer, and then means that you, you're losing money on monthly payments. You're losing money on extra job that you never prepared for. So that buffer, that margin is your key. You make your money when you buy real estate, not when you sell. It's when you buy. You buy right. You buy right. You buy right. I can't stress that enough. So for your renovations, if you have the right contractor in, then things should move really fast. You want it fast. You want to make sure that every delay, any kind of impediments are out of the way so your contractor can work. One of the ways you can speed things up is that even before the house closes, you want to prepare. If you have to do some architectural redrawing, then get your architect well in line before things start, because sometimes they to take quite a long time to get the job done. Sometimes when we want to save money, we decide, okay, maybe the demo part of the job that means the demolition of some structure so that new ones can come up. We decide to take that on by ourselves. One of our guests in the past few shows was talking about this, and what had happened was that they did the demolitions by themselves. The contractor came in and began to work, and he started pointing out that, you know what, the demo was not done right. We have to go back and remove some of these things that you guys didn't remove. And what ended up happening is that, number one, they had to pay more because now the contractor had to do the demo by himself, and then number two, the job took longer. So sometimes it's just better to just let the professionals do their job and build that into your estimate and make sure that your buffer is really strong. That's all there is to it. Um, of course, you stay on top of things even as contractors are working. Again, some people have a habit of abandoning a job to go to another job, and that just means that, your job is going to take longer. You don't want that. So basically, every day you have to kind of show up randomly to make sure that things are moving along. All right. Let's jump to the next step. If your reno goes right and goes within schedule and budget, your house is now done. So you've rehabilitated the house. The next thing to do then is to fill that house with a tenant right away. This is each of this point. I think I'm going to come back and, we'll talk more about it in depth later, because obviously in this show we can't cover everything in detail. But the next step of filling the home with a tenant is also, this is what makes or breaks a landlord: getting the right person in a home. I tell you, putting the wrong tenant in your house could could cut short your real estate investing career right there. Like, I've seen investors who just quit because of a very bad tenant. But really, it shouldn't phase you. Like I always say, your reward in the long run, it far outweighs the trouble of a bad tenant. Even if a tenant doesn't pay for a whole year, I'm telling you that if you've held on to your property for over, let's say, 5 to 10 years, then what you're holding onto in the property well outweighs a whole year's rent. So it's just a matter of having a thick skin and the guts to push through the difficult times, and time will reward you if you stay in the game. So making sure you filter your tenants properly is big, because tenants are getting savvier and savvier with laws. Not that you're trying to cheat your tenants, but they're also finding loopholes to make sure that they exploit the system. So digging through the background of the tenant, do your background check, do your reference checks, make sure that the tenant have a good history or track record with other landlords, make sure that the tenant has a good job. uh, it's really hard for a tenant to pay if there's no income coming in. So verify the income of the tenant, make sure that the income is what they say it is. Verify the employment, verify how much they get paid. If it's a family, it's even better when both husband and wife are getting paid. Like that means that if one loses their job, at least it's likely that they can still keep the roof over their heads. Screening your tenants is key. And then the I think one of our last guests was saying that he would walk the tenant to their car and take a quick peek at the car, because if the car is clean or dirty, it kind of gives you a glimpse into the tenant's uh, you know way of life, and if they're a clean person or a dirty person. I happen to work with a tenant that's very clean, and I tell you, if you have a tenant that takes good care of your property, that's good. That's really good. It makes you feel good and comfortable. You can sleep at night. Have a tenant that doesn't necessarily buzz you because a pin fell to the floor in the house. All of that. So screening, getting the right tenant, that again, we'll probably find time to delve even deeper into that. The next step after renting the property is to refinance the property. This step is where you get out your capital invested in the property for a BRRRR strategy. So you bought the house for 300, you put 100,000 into it. The house is now worth 500. So you go back to the bank, and you refinance. If your down payment, if you bought for 300 and your down payment was 20% of 300, that's 60,000, right? So you've invested 60,000 down payment plus your close. Let's just say you spent 70,000 in it, and then the house is now worth 500. Meanwhile, you've bought it for 300. You've invested uh rehabilitation cost of 100,000. So all in your 400. You go back to the bank and refinance. The house is now worth 500,000. The bank is still gonna want to they're gonna want to refinance. Let's just for ease of calculation, let's say the house is worth 550. As at 550, the bank wants to they still probably want a loan to value of 80%. So 550, 80% of 550 will give you what? That's about, let's just say 450,000. That's not exactly accurate, but let's just use that round number. 450. If you refinance and you leave 20% in, and what you can owe the bank now is around 450. With 450 owing the bank, but what you in your new loan, so what you've received now is 450, but what you invested is just about 400. That gives you 50,000. I hope I explained that right. Let's go back again. You bought a house 300. You refinance. You rehabilitated for 100,000. That means all in 400,000. The house is now worth 550,000. You spent 400,000 on the house. The house is worth 550,000. The margin you have there is 150,000. Now, if you were to flip the property, then what you would do is find a buyer that buys it at for 550,000. You cash in on your 150,000 profit and you run. That's how flip goes. But in the BRRRR strategy, we're not looking to run. We're looking to rent it out, and we're looking to take out whatever money we invested out of pocket. So what we invested out of pocket was about 60 to 70,000. Once you refinance the property, the bank still wants you to leave in about 100,000 in the property. That means that what you'll be able to get out is about $50,000. So with this explanation right here, you invested 70, you got out 50,000, but you still own a property, meaning that what you actually left in the property is about 20,000. You can now take this 50,000 and go repeat. So the last step is to repeat the same thing again on another property. Now, if you do your calculations right from the start, then you could literally get the entire money you put into the house. So in this case, we put 60,000 plus closing cost. We got out 50,000. But there are cases where you could literally get everything out. Let's say you were able to beat the renovation cost, for example, down to like 60,000 instead of 100,000. Then that gives you that 40 extra thousand. In this case, you will be getting out way much more than you put in. Maybe you're getting about 100,000 cash in your pocket. You invested 60, 65, 70. That means you're coming out with 100,000. That's about 30,000, 35,000 extra. I hope that makes sense. What I'm going to do later to the replay, maybe on YouTube, is to add some screen overlays of this calculation to help you make sense of it. Or maybe in the next episode, I actually have some slides. That way you can see the breakdown of how the numbers actually makes sense. But that's how the BRRRR strategy works. And the beauty of the BRRRR strategy is that at the end of it all, you have a property that hopefully breaks even or cash flow positive, and then you have the original capital that you put into that first project to go do another one. And this is where the rubber meets the road here. The beauty of BRRRR strategy is the expansion of your portfolio. You're able to take whatever you made on the investment, the original down payment plus closing cost of the first property, and go repeat it on the next one. And isn't that what we all want to do here? You want to grow your portfolio, and if I can get my down payment for all the properties that I've bought, then I'll be able to do a whole lot more, right? Rather than just find the cash invest it in the property and forget it in there. But obviously, what is the catch with this? There's a little bit of you there's a bit of hands-on when it comes to this BRRRR strategy. You remember that if you have your down payment, you could just buy the property, rent it, and walk away. But what makes BRRRR more creative is that you're able to leverage the same amount of money over and over again, because at the end of the process, you're able to come away with the same money you put in there and go do it again, right? And because of that, you need to a bit it requires a bit more hands-on. It requires you to pay more attention to the deals you're getting into. It requires you to be a bit more detailed in your analysis to make sure that you buy right. Remember what we began with: you make your money when you buy. You make all your money in real estate when you buy. And in the long run, obviously, you want to hold to maximize your investment. So that is the BRRRR strategy in a nutshell. I hope that I was able to bring clarity to some of the questions that you have. I will, like I said, um, do some breakdown of numbers. That way, you see a typical, you know, uh, use case of this strategy and how it could help you understand it better. If you're looking to employ the same strategy and you're looking for deals that could work, reach out to me again privately, and we can chat on how to get that started. I think that's where we'll wrap it up for this show today. I hope you've learned something. If you've learned something, please make sure to send in a comment. Please like the video as well. The feedback does a lot to encourage me to continue going. Next week, I'm going to be having a lawyer. Ooh, yes. Obviously, we're in a litigious society here, so it's important that you have the law on your side, whatever you do. So, I have a real estate lawyer coming on the show next week. You wouldn't want to miss that to make sure that you are doing everything right. So, yes, especially when you're trying to build an investment portfolio, how can you create some shelters around your real estate investment and all of that, and the good stuff are the things that we'll be talking about next week. So I look forward to seeing you there. My name again is Joseph Ola. I'm a realtor and a real estate investor in the Niagara Hamilton area, but I venture into almost all the markets close by here: Kitchener, London, Waterloo, Guelph, Toronto, Scarborough, Pickering, Ajax. Yeah, I'm all over the place, especially because of my involvement in investments as well. All these markets are relevant to me. So if you have any questions, you have any comments, please drop them in the comment section or reach out to me privately. And please don't forget to like and subscribe and share all this video. All right. Thanks again for coming on the show. My name is Joseph Oller. Have a splendid week ahead of you. And see, you know what? Before we go, I put out a poll. I want to know what y'all feel about this time. It's 12 noon to 1 p.m. Eastern time every Monday right now, but I'm considering doing this in the evening. So please let me know if that works better for you. About 6:30 p.m. Eastern time or 7 p.m. Eastern time, or keep it where it is right now at 12 noon every Monday. Let me know which one works for you in the comments. I'll be monitoring that through the week. If evening works better, then I will be switching it over to evenings, but that depends on you. So please let your le- make sure that your opinions heard in the comment section. All right. Again, thank you very much. Yeah, Angela Jacobs, thanks a lot for joining the show. Uh, what a session. This is my first solo session, and I actually quite enjoy it, even though it's a lot of talking. So but I look forward to doing it again very soon. Next week, come on and let's talk about the legalese of real estate. See you next Monday. Have a wonderful week ahead, and God bless you.